Evening. Hello. Sorry. Good evening. This is the February 7th meeting of the Wareham School Committee, and the meeting's being recorded by WCTV for broadcast, and an audio recording is being made by Mrs. Ruiz. First, I'm going to at this time, I'm handing the meeting over to Mr. Fitzgerald and Dr. Shaberhood.
Thank you, Mrs. Capriccio. I'm here for the sad occasion to remember a member of our family who we lost since last the committee met, a teacher, a wonderful educator, Denise Yop. I've had the fortune to speak to a lot of people about her, and over the last week have heard much about her as an educator, but also the joy she took as someone who cared so deeply for her family, as a wife, as a mother. Everyone who loved her and everyone she loved has the condolences of all the teachers in Wareham. To speak about her as an educator, so often a child would walk into her classroom, many times as somebody who struggled to read, which so often meant somebody who wasn't sure that they liked to read. And they never knew it, but when a child walked into Mrs. Yop's classroom, they were receiving an unspoken promise. They received the promise that in that classroom would be somebody who was not going to give up on them. No matter how many programs, no matter how many different approaches, no matter how many different techniques, no matter how much time, how much they were enthusiastic or not, Mrs. Yop was not going to give up on them. They received the promise that they would always have one-on-one time, that there would be a table with two people working together so one person could become a better reader. They received the promise that they would be working with somebody who was an expert, somebody with training and who had learned from the best of the best, somebody who had so many ideas to offer. It wasn't just students who walked through the door of her classroom. So many of her colleagues came through that door looking for help because they knew Mrs. Yop was somebody who was going to help anybody who walked through that door. And they also received the promise that if you came into this classroom, you were going to play. Mrs. Yop never forgot how important it is and how much a child needs to play. Somebody said there's a hole in Deacon's now, and there's one in Wareham Public Schools. It's strange to think that there's not going to be a Mrs. Yop's room in Wareham. Her wit, her passion are going to be missed very much. But she's remembered not just in our memories of her, what we've learned from our colleague, but in what readers and what people her students became, because every day she worked to fulfill the promise that they received the first time they walked through the door of Mrs. Yop's room. We miss Denise. We'll miss Denise, and we already do.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. I'd like to thank all the staff being here tonight. We have a special presentation built by Mr. Tricker tonight and the staff of DECUS to remember our beloved Denise. So again, thank you for being here tonight. Dr. Yop, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it, and this is in remembrance of Denise.
Get your gun, they got a chicken on the run. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. Hey, papa. Hey, papa. You better get your gun. They got a chicken on the run. They got a dog in the yard. The dog in the yard. He's got about a tail, y'all, and she clacking like hell. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. Hey, papa. Hey, papa. You better get your gun. They got a chicken on the run. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. Hey, papa. Hey, papa. You better get your gun. They got a chicken on the run. Hey, mama. Hey, mama. Hey, papa. Hey, papa. You better get your gun. They got a chicken on the run.
Mrs. Yap passed away last Tuesday. The Wareham Public School community lost a teacher, a trusted colleague, and a dear friend. Her passing comes as a shock to all of us. Mrs. Yap was passionate about education. A lifelong learner, she received degrees from Johnson & Wales, Lesley University, and Rhode Island College. She joined us in Wareham over 12 years ago. In those dozen years, she touched countless lives. Moreover, Denise changed lives. There are many in this room tonight who share fond memories of Denise and who will forever miss seeing her face, hearing her laughter, and sharing a conversation. Denise truly loved the profession, her students, and her colleagues. And those who knew her knew how much she adored her family. The Dalai Lama shared, just as ripples spread out when a single pebble is dropped in the water, the actions of individuals can have far-reaching effects. Mrs. Yap's personal and professional life is a testament to this. Although her life was tragically cut short, her time on earth, she's dropped a pebble in the water. She's touched many. She's impacted the lives of family members, her friends, her colleagues, and hundreds of students. Even though she's no longer with us, her actions will have far-reaching effects for years to come. Her students will become future doctors, scientists, actors, athletes, educators. They will bring with them lessons they learned from Denise that they will carry in their minds and in their hearts. And they too will touch many lives. Denise has created a ripple that will have no end. And as such, her legacy will have no end. I would now ask you for a moment of silence as we pay honor to her life. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is public comment. Would anyone like to come down and comment? Could David please come down at this time?
Nathan, would you and your mother like to join us at the table? Okay.
Good evening. I am here tonight to present a photo that I have found a number of years ago at a friend's antique store, and I believe it belongs with the Wareham school system because it is a class of 1934.
Wow.
I had been able to find at least one. There was one in the beginning that I had found that was still alive, and I had contacted her daughter and had remained in contact with her daughter. However, she had since passed away, the woman, and there was another woman that was also in the photo that was still alive who also passed away shortly after that. So I just want to give this back to the town in hopes that it will be hung up for the public to enjoy. And also the reason why I am giving it back to you guys, you know, not only to hang it up in the hallway, but also because the high school back in 1934 is now the multi-use building. So I believe that is where its home should be. I mean, because I honestly, you know, it was a fun project, honestly, but it has no sentimental value to me. I don't know anybody in the photo, so I just want to give it back to you guys.
I would also say that what we would like to do is Nathan will come into the multi-service center. He will pick the spot where he would like to have it placed, and we would invite the newspaper to please come and take photos of this wonderful event and a very generous gift.
Thank you.
I think it's also really great the way you tried to find people, and maybe the newspaper could print the other names and you find other people who could look at this
Certainly,
photo that
my
way.
mother knows a bunch of people actually that want copies. At least I think I found at least like a handful that want copies because you know it's their mother, it's their aunt, it's their
Yeah.
grandmother,
Oh, that's
it's
great. Yeah.
you know it's their great aunt. It's you know it's more family to them than they are to me.
So
So-
you've done a great service for the community.
Thank you.
Nathan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, the next is the minutes of the meeting.
Before we-
Oh, go ahead.
Good news.
Good news, yes. Sorry.
Now I've forgotten the date, March, Credit for Life, where's Mr. Palladino? Credit for Life is March 13th?
Tuesday, I believe it's 13.
For some reason, I thought it was a Friday.
Right, I'm sorry, it was March 16th, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know, for those of you who are aware of this program that is put on by, I believe it's Cape Cod 5, this is the third or fourth year, something like, fourth year, thank you. The organizers of it are always looking for volunteers. I've done it several times. It's a wonderful experience, both for the volunteers and for the students. So I wanted to let parents and students know that the high school will be once again putting on Credit for Life on March 16th, Friday, March 16th. I also wanted to let parents and students know that I have invited South Coast Hospital's group to put on a presentation on February 28th, which is the next regularly scheduled meeting of the school committee, on chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Fortunately, it has an acronym, CTE, which many of us have heard about, and concussions. Given the news that has been recently put in newspapers and on television that not just concussions, but just consistent hard hitting can cause brain damage, I thought it would be particularly beneficial for parents and students to see this. So there's an expert coming from South Coast Hospitals on the 28th to do a presentation, and I urge you to be here, or at least to watch at home on television. And then finally, I wanted to let you know that on that same date, the superintendent will be presenting a program on the next generation of state accountability. Some of you may be aware that every school district, every school in the Commonwealth gets a rating from the state. Well, that is being significantly revised How they calculate it is being changed. What is used in that calculation is being changed. As a matter of fact, the Cape and Islands, including Wareham, will be doing something on Friday at the Cape Cod Collaborative regarding this, as well as a legislative update. But if you don't want to travel all the way there, you can get the same presentation on the 28th of February. I think that's it. Thank you.
Sounds really interesting, too. Thank you. Does anyone else have any good news? Minutes of the meeting, January 17th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 500. And next, we're going to hear about global education study abroad students. Mrs. Mann.
Good evening. I asked that I could be here tonight so that I could present several students to you. These students, I would like to have them acknowledged because they were selected to participate in short-term study abroad programs. We have an upcoming program during April vacation. 3 students and an educator will be traveling to Beijing. Students will be attending classes in our sister school, one of our sister schools there, and staying in host families' homes. In June and July, 5 students will be going to Sydney, Australia to participate in homestays and to go to school there with their peers. Very proud of these students. They went through an interview process. They had an application, a lengthy application. They were interviewed by the interview committee, who then selected them from a number of wonderful candidates and sent their names to me. And I wanted to acknowledge them all tonight and also give kudos to their parents and guardians for allowing them to participate in this opportunity. So if those students could come down here tonight, I'd like you to say your name and which program you're going to. I have 7 of the 8 students here with me tonight. One of the students is home. It's Dylan Turner. He'll be going to Beijing in April. He's thrilled. He has the flu and he won't be able to join us tonight, unfortunately. But he is feeling better and he joined us by Skype earlier during our orientation meeting. So, yeah, say your name and where you're going with your program.
I'm Matthew Paling, and I'm going to China in April.
I'm Abby Wixton, and I'll be going to Sydney in June.
I'm Madison Murphy, and I'll be going to Sydney in June.
I'm Jessie Pender, and I'll be going to Australia in June.
I'm Brooke Chandler, and I'll be going to China in April.
I'm Ava Sullivan, and I'll be going to Australia in June and July.
I'm Cecilia Botino. I'll be going to Sydney in June and July.
I did also want to mention a thank you to some generous benefactors who have helped sponsor their trip in part or in full. Boston Wise, Boston Ivy, and the Elks Lodge of Wareham and New Bedford. We're very grateful to their generosity to helping make this happen for these students.
Okay. I'd like to say congratulations to you. I was on the interview committee, so I've already met all of you. And I heard that this evening you might be okay to ask you a question of what you think about, your experience. So I guess my question would be, how do you think this will change your life in the future? What do you think you'll take away from this for your future?
Of course, Abby.
I think that it'll have a lasting impact on not only our life in school, but our life outside of school. We'll now know so many people from a different culture, and we'll have friends around the world. And I think that's a really great opportunity for kids so young to have.
Thank you, Abby. Would anyone else like to speak?
I believe this could change my life because it could higher the level of global competence that each student has and the understanding they have for different cultures and the way things function in different societies, even if it's not extremely different. As I'm going to Australia, you get to see differences subtly in the way people act and the things people do. And I think that increases the global competence of people when they see these things and they understand people better throughout their lives because of this.
Thank you.
I think that this is
Well,
going to
tell us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Cecilia, or Cece, and I think I think this will be really very interesting experience because I don't travel very far with my family, so getting to go to a completely different part of the world will be really mind-opening, and it'll give me such a different perspective on how I view the world and other people and other cultures. So I think that'll be very beneficial for my future when I'm selecting where I go to college or what I want to do, where I want to travel, because having already been to Australia, I'll have knowledge on traveling and I'll be able to decide what I want to do with my future with that knowledge.
Thank you, Cece. Someone else? We're all set then? Okay, thank you so much for coming here, and we want to hear about your trip afterwards. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to hear now the Boosters Club update on the Snack Shack project.
Are there any Booster Club members that are going to come up? Not sure if they're all shy, but I'm going to try and see if I can flip this so I can show you some pictures. Let's see if we can do this. Well. I'm going to try and log in while I'm talking. So, as you're aware, the Booster Club went in front of the Community Preservation Committee to seek funding for a new concession stand and ticket booth. And obviously they received that. We came forward with some plans, and they started the construction this past fall into the early part of the winter. And so right now we have a foundation, and we're going out to bid shortly on the actual construction. I do want to recognize the Booster Clubs, and hopefully I can get this up. I was afraid to ruin Tom Tricker's presentation earlier. But the Booster Club members are Joyce Bakayaki, Jen McCarran, Missy Deacus, Ann Pearl, Jill Johnson, Janine Alexander, Mary Labonte, Shari Corrado, and Cheryl Flaherty. And they've all been involved, and I guess I'm the speaker for them, but they're very involved. They have bi-weekly meetings, and they support all of the athletic programs. But we're at a point in time now where we have knocked down the old concession stand, which opened up, and I'll share with you, I'll send this via email to you, some of the pictures, and it has created a nice little area for folks to be able to see the activities on the field. And the concession stand will be kind of backed up more in the area of the ticket booth, but a little bit closer to the middle school. And we will tear down the ticket booth after the concession stand is finished. We do have basically it's two different rooms. The front section, which would be the section facing closest to the multi-service center, would be the ticket booth section, which would have 3 windows, which we would be able to utilize for ticket sales. And they would have garage-type roll-down doors. The backside, which would be the side facing the field, would have 2 large windows for serving food, obviously, and both sections would have their own entrance with a door in between the two rooms, if you will. Certainly, I do want to publicly thank Joyce Bakayaki. She was the driving force, kind of before she was on the school committee, to get this going and really get the ball rolling, and has continued to do so even while she's still a school committee member. So we appreciate that, Joyce. And I know she likes to speak, so you can certainly direct any questions to her as well. But she attends every meeting, as do many of those people I listed for the Booster Club. And they've been, beyond getting the concession stand going, they've been great for our athletic program. The winter sports view book just came out. If you have a chance to see that at one of the athletic events, they do a great job with that, with fundraising and putting money back into the athletic program for things that the school budget just can't support for obvious reasons. So I do want to thank them, and I certainly, Joyce or I can answer any questions you may have. And again, I will share with you this slideshow. There are some nice pictures, and you can also see the architectural drawing of the plans, so you can kind of see what the front's going to look like and what the back. So just keep in mind that the 3 windows would be the ticket booth and the 2 windows would be the concession stand. So I'll share that with you when I get back to my seat.
So are you going to show us the show now, or
unfortunately, there's a little technical difficulty here, but I'll be glad to email it to you so you can see it before the night's over.
That's fine. I just wanted to proceed correctly. So are there any questions? Would anyone like to address any questions? Would anyone else like to speak? Do you have anything else to add?
No, he did a great job.
He did a good job?
Right,
That's
yes, he did.
Okay.
Just a thank you to Michael for his help.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'd be remiss. Michael was obviously very involved in this as well from the beginning. And I just think it's going to be nice. We had 2 buildings that, quite frankly, were eyesores in that area, and this is going to really clean up that area. But it's also going to be used by the community. There's a lot of programs, obviously the Tigers come to mind, that use our field. They'll be involved in using this. We do, on my last slide, it does say that, the next process, we're going out to bid for the framing, but we also anticipate the concession stand will be fully operational for the spring sports season. Hopefully I can talk them into doing some dry runs at maybe some of the baseball games that happen there. And certainly I know the goal is to have it open for graduation, so it'll be pretty exciting at that time of year.
Certainly something to look forward to. Spring.
So just out of curiosity, if we wanted to get rid of the truck beds, those ugly things on the other side of the street from the tennis court, we should ask Joyce Bakayaki to be put in charge of that committee?
Well, remember, when she started this, she wasn't on school committee, so she had a little more time on her hands.
But now she has so much influence,
Well, we're hoping, we've had, obviously, with, the tennis courts, community preservation matched those funds, and now this project. And if you dig back a little deeper, the resurfacing of the track was paid for by those funds. So obviously, these areas that the community uses, and I'm just excited with this project, just as excited as I was with the other 2.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm just a spokesperson. They do all the work, trust me. Thank you.
Yeah. And next, Mr. McMillan for the Transportation Services Procurement.
Good evening, School Committee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. So I'm here to seek your approval for us to carry out a procurement for an external vendor to provide our in-district education, in-district regular ed transportation services. So let me just give you a little background on what we do now and why we would like to go out to procurement for this. So we currently run 18 in-district regular elementary school runs and 19 in-district regular high school, middle school runs. We do 10 in-district special education runs, 6 out-of-district runs, which we run by Wareham Public Schools employees and buses, 15 out-of-district runs, which are done by vendors, contracted services, and then in addition, there's 5 other out-of-district runs which parents transport their children themselves. And in addition to that, we're also running athletics, field trips, and 1 or 2 out-of-district regular education runs. So, as you'll know from my budget presentations, transportation continues to be a real financial and also an operational challenge for us. Particularly, I think there's two factors driving that. One is there's a state and nationwide shortage of bus drivers. Primarily, I think that's driven by an increase in the requirements to get a bus driver license and a lack of people coming into to become bus drivers, and that's driving up costs and demand for bus drivers, and that's driving up the cost. It's also making it more and more difficult to find bus drivers. And then in addition to that, just the nature of out-of-district special education is that there's a lot of fluctuation, changes that happens quickly. You know, some children need that special education outside the district, but then they come back into the district, or they are in district and then they go out, and there's a lot of fluctuation, which makes it a difficult service to manage and to predict. And as you've seen, all that's driving up our costs, and that's having a big impact on our budget and putting a lot of pressure there. So we believe that by finding a vendor to run our in-district regular education service, which is predictable because it doesn't change much during the year, that we can concentrate the other resources we have on taking on more of the out-of-district runs, where we believe the margins that we'll be able to save are greater, and it will also bring a higher degree of stability. Well, it will ensure the stability of those in-district runs. So that's a very quick, short version of why we want to do it. I mean, we did go out to bid it last year to try and procure all of our services, and for a couple of reasons that wasn't a very successful procurement. It was a bit late in the year, so I think that was a little trickier for some vendors. But there's two things that there was one major thing that came back from the vendors, which was they didn't believe that we were really serious about going out to bid. They said the district has done it multiple times and never actually selected a vendor. And so I mean that's a difficult impression to overturn, and it takes a lot of work for them to put the procurement together, and so they were reluctant to do that if we were just testing the water again. So that's one of the reasons to come here and explicitly, I mean, one, it's important to let you know that it's happening, but two, I want to see if you supported this process, because I think that would give some confidence to those vendors to submit bids. There was also we had decided to split up the management of the fleet from the actual procurement, but feedback from vendors is it's easier if we give them greater certainty about what's going to happen to the buses. And so we've been able to confirm that they'll be able to use our buses, but they'll remain ours until they need to be replaced, and when they replace them, they'll own them. And so giving them greater certainty and better understanding of what will happen to the fleet should also help drive greater interest in the procurement. So that's my quick synopsis. Any questions or concerns?
Oh, yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Where to begin? The first is a somewhat sarcastic comment that if they're concerned that we don't take their bids, they may actually want to lower them because that would make them a little bit more attractive and actually save us some money. Secondly, from talking to other communities, it's clear that some communities have accepted their bids and then regretted it within a year or two because all of a sudden they're out of the business. It's really expensive to get back into the business, and they're raising their prices. So when you get a bid, for how long are they guaranteeing these prices, or at least what kind of escalators are they putting in their contracts so that we can have some comfort for at least the next, pick a number, 5 years, it's actually beneficial to us as a community to do this?
So we have in the past gone out for at least 3 years. So we can, we've done 3 years, and then they build in what the escalation will be for those 3 years. I mean, reflecting your concern, I think it'd be a good idea to go out for 5 years. So they have to give us our prices for 5 years. And obviously the risk cuts both ways, because if anything would reduce costs, we don't get it. But I think that degree of certainty is worth that risk.
And of course, I think it's fair to say, given your opening remarks, even if we were to accept a bid, the high likelihood is that every one of our drivers would be hired by the company
Yeah.
that took over because there's such a shortage of
Yeah.
drivers.
We're not reducing, well, through this process, we wouldn't be reducing any of the number of drivers we need. So,
Meaning that they would immediately become part of the out-of-district and non-regular driving? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
well, ideally, there'd be a bit of both. So, I mean, that would all have to be worked out if and when we found a successful vendor, exactly, and we need to negotiate with the employees where they want to go. But the vendor will need to hire drivers to provide in-district runs, and we will also want to keep some of those drivers as well to do some of to do more of the out-of-district runs.
And the other way that communities suffer, and I want to make sure it sounds like that won't be a problem in this case, is that whenever there's anything special, like,
Yeah.
the basketball team wants to go to Boston, to do a championship, then that's all of a sudden an extra cost. I assume that special activities and athletic runs and things like that will be kept in-house.
That's the plan, yes.
So this would be as simple a bid as you can almost
Yes,
make,
exactly.
and therefore it should be easy for them to respond.
Yes, exactly.
Now, finally, the number of students that they'd actually be transporting, how are you going to construct the bid to accurately describe the number of students that they would be transporting?
So,
Meaning, is it 2 miles, is it 1 mile, et cetera?
So it would be under the same with the same mileage that we currently provide a service, because obviously if we reduced it, that would increase the cost, and that's going in the wrong direction. So it'd be the same number. What we'll do is we'll provide them the number of students that ride the bus at the moment.
At the moment?
Yeah. And the way the bids normally work is they give you a price per bus per day.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the way they do it.
So
we're not going to tell them how many buses we use. They'll make their own calculation.
yeah, although, I mean, they'll know. And we won't hide that information, but because, we will probably provide them the information about how many buses we run right now and the number of students. But I think our hope would be that through better routing, we'd be able to reduce the number. But, then, I mean, you run into issues about the size of Wareham and how many students are on the bus. I mean, how long students are on the bus. So that would all be worked out. But the hope is that by having a company which does this for a living, we'll be able to make better, more efficient organisation of our routes and our fleet.
What's really interesting is the next presentation by your colleague behind you is a perfect example of the fact that sometimes you can actually do it well yourself.
Yeah.
Because there are probably, I don't know what the numbers are, maybe you do, but there are a significant percentage of communities that don't have their own food services. And we were told years ago that we really needed to do that if we wanted to solve our financial problems related to providing the services. And yet, the next presentation is going to make it very clear that we're doing just fine by ourselves.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to make the mistake of jumping into this, and I'm not suggesting you are making that mistake. But I want to be really convinced that there was significant savings over 5 years before I wanted to get out of the business.
Yeah.
And of course, we won't be out of the business because we'll still be doing special ed.
Yeah. Well, that's my hope, that we can sort of get the best of both worlds by maintaining a certain level of service in district, where we can apply our resources and try and get the benefit of what we can provide, while also bringing in a bigger operation to help take over the regular district.
I commend you for the initiative. I look forward to the results.
Thank you.
I have a question. Did you bid? Oh,
That's all right.
Mary, please go next.
That's all right.
No.
So I just have a side note now dealing with outside agencies for transportation. That's all the district has. They don't have any of their own. So saving money, and you bring up a good point about them raising the costs, which we've seen.
Yeah.
And then the other point is it's almost similar to having contracted people in your building for, say, speech or OT or whatever. They're not technically your employee, so sometimes it makes it harder to develop a good relationship and a dedication to the district. And my main point is that I'm struggling right now with one company in particular, and they're not, I mean, they already have this contract, and they're not very cooperative. So I'm just putting it out there.
I think that's a brilliant point, and I think the key to that is how we draft the procurement and the contract to make sure that that sort of stuff is enforceable. So I'll take that on board and I'll go back and look at the documents and make sure that they give us enough leeway to apply pressure if we run into problems like that.
I've been saying don't pay them, but then
yeah,
you can't
exactly.
do it.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends
Yeah.
how you write your contract. Yeah,
Right.
how egregious it is.
With the fact that they would employ our drivers, would that help with that situation? Or are you talking about management? Of
Management.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I definitely think there is a truth. I mean, without a doubt, if we have a problem with the driver, we don't talk to the driver. We
Right,
talk to the
exactly,
company,
right.
and then it's their job to fix it. Which is,
Okay.
So that makes that does increase a sort of degree of distance between us and the driver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just a quick anecdote about it. We wanted to train a driver on understanding autistic characteristics and behaviors on a bus. So it took us about a month to set it up. The trainer went there to train the driver, and the driver just didn't show up.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think, we have to be aware that even if we are using a vendor to provide some of these services, we want these drivers to be well trained, responsible,
Exactly,
react, deal well with students. And that's, so our responsibility to ensure that happens doesn't disappear. We are still responsible. We just have to do it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure, and I will make sure the training of drivers is reflected in the contract, so that, and that sort of thing, so that we can make sure that we have the levers to apply that pressure should we have run into problems like that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Last year when we went out to bid,
Yeah.
were you bidding just regular education? Or what was it, how was it bundled last?
It was everything last time.
Okay.
So
So right now you're just doing
Just
regular
industry,
runs,
regular,
nothing
yes.
after school, extra
Yeah.
or special ed, just the regular daily bus route?
Yep, that's right.
So we're going to take a vote on this now for him to open?
I don't know, do you
Yeah.
have to vote on it?
Did you put on for a vote? I can't remember.
It's just information, right?
It's just information, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Are we in support?
Yeah, vote. I had it here.
We
It's
had a
gonna be
vote
Okay.
just to approve our procurement, if that's
Yes.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
So do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the efforts to procure multiple bids for regular transportation runs.
I'll
Do I-
second it.
All those in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Aye. 500.
Thank you very much.
And you'll come back, let us know will we have?
Yes, also
We'll
apart
have
from anything else,
input once.
it's a
if
5-year
something
contract. We
happens.
would have to get your approval because
Oh,
we're not
okay.
allowed to enter into contracts over 3 years without your approval.
Okay, so you can stay there,
I
Mr.
would come
Shaheen
in,
can
yeah.
come down. And we'll hear the food budget, the food services budget report.
You can get started. I'll get the slides up while you.
Good evening, school committee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm here tonight to present the budget for the food service department this year and next year, where we think and hope will be.
So just while we're waiting for this to warm up, I can just provide a little background to this, which is we haven't, in the past, we've not normally put together a budget in such an explicit way. I mean, and I think sort of two things came together at the same time. One is Rob has been, seeking an ongoing professional development. In one of his courses, he's been developing a budget, which is, it's always good financial practice to develop a budget, even though, so the reason we haven't is because all our money is driven by how much, two things, state reimbursement and how many students we serve, which is also reflective of how many students we serve. So we've tended to, our overall budget has been to live within our means, so that's what we've always tried to do. But it's good fiscal practice to develop a budget so that you can see, is your expenditure where you expect it to be? Has something changed? That you and understand the forecast you made, and the budget you made, and why that has changed or not changed when you're actually in the midst of it. So, in addition, we've recently received a request from the Finance Committee to receive a copy of the budget. So before we did that, I wanted to make sure we'd come and presented it to you so that you could see the numbers that we would present. So I think we did circulate the slides. So I don't know, Rob, you want to talk to the slides while I try and get them to work up here?
So the first thing about doing the budget for the department is our rate is set for reimbursement for the next, well, this year and 3 years under the Community Eligibility Provision Program. So, you know, I tend to look at the revenue being kind of stable depending on population and enrollment. A la carte sales, I look to be pretty even as long as vending. So I guess in part of learning how to do a budget and understanding it is maybe taking a leap a little bit to come up with some figures that that I think would happen. But for me, it's the first few years of the stages of working within these parameters, so I'll try to do the best I can. Yep. So if you look at last year, revenue sources through reimbursements from the federal government were over $1.3 million. State sources around $38,728. So I've pretty much gone down a little bit based on the fact that this year revenue is dipping a little bit, and I think that's due a little bit to enrollment. We've lost a little bit of students. So I'm kind of keeping that flat over the next few years. Same thing with the state sources. A la carte sales have gone down a little bit. I think the students are going, not spending as much money on some a la carte products, chips and water and so forth. We instituted water as another option, and aside from milk at lunch, so they could choose all 6 items that we offer, or they could take milk or water. So that has switched a little bit in terms of a la carte sales, where they can get a small bottle of water instead of having to buy one. So that's the vending difference. So total revenues look a little shy of going down slightly or remaining constant. So the meat of the program is in the costs. Salary and wages look to increase over the next few years, and mainly that's due to contracted increases of around 3%. That's how I figured out that number. Food costs are going to continue to go down. So this is due to better utilization of entitlement monies, streamlining the menu even more for products that we can get better bid pricing on. Supplies, we've seen a little uptick in supplies. Going to breakfast in the classroom in some of the schools, we've had to buy some more materials for packaging the items together, so that's been a little bit of increase there. New equipment costs. The good and bad thing about making money in the food service department is you have money, but then the federal government wants you to spend it. So I've created a budget for equipment based on having it serviced each year and getting recommendation as to which equipment pieces are either irreparable or are looking to go out within the near future. It's a great way to look at that to try to replace equipment, but sometimes equipment just fails. And so we have to replace that. So I've tried to do a pretty good job of, as I get grant funds, to try to replace pieces I think that are not going to make it for the next year or so. And that helps too, because if you have grant money, you're not using your bottom line dollars. So you see with the new equipment, last year we spent over $109,000. $80,000 of that was towards redoing the cafeteria at the high school, where we painted, got on new chairs, tables. We bought a couple of steamers that had to be replaced. A few warmers for the food had to be replaced. And so I figured for the next few years, I'm going to do the same and try to replace some more equipment. That number could go down depending on if I get grant. I have an equipment grant of $20,000 out there right now for some equipment at the high school, the serving lines, a few serving lines that are over 40 years old that need replacement. One at the Minot School is not working, so we're running with one line right now. I know that's in the works of getting a new elementary school, but I think it's a piece of equipment that I could use for the new school. So I really don't like going with one line. It slows down the food service a little bit, although the staff at all the schools have done great jobs with the menu and working with the equipment. A lot of it is fairly old. Equipment repairs, as we get new equipment, repairs for the old equipment should go down. So that's why I'm going down in terms of equipment repairs and trying to replace equipment. So pest control is pretty constant every year, the same amount at every school, hasn't gone up. Marketing costs, last year I spent money on a new website and menu analysis program to make the menu available online. Excuse me, with nutritional information available on all the items with recipes. So I'm looking to continue some marketing expenses to promote the food service department and what we offer to students, parents, faculty. So we'll be doing that. Training, employee benefits, that should be pretty constant over the next 2 years. The first year here, I think I had some of the benefits, that $21,000 was, should be moved towards the salary area, not so much benefits. We did some training, or some, we had a musical type of play and nutritional class for both elementary schools, where they came and did a demonstration about food and learning about that. So that's why that cost us high that year. The next few years should be a little lower. I found different ways of doing the in-service training for the staff every year that's required by professional standards in the USDA. So those costs will go down. And our admin monitor custodian costs are pretty constant each year. So overall, net profit looks to be up a little bit this year, and next year maybe a little dip just based on revenue and expenses and revenue with salary and wages going up. That's sort of the difference there. With a pretty healthy fund balance, which I'll look to continue to try to utilize that to make changes in the department with equipment, like I said, and more training, better menu options. Any questions?
Thank you for being here, Rob. Always good to get your report. The employee benefits we're not allowed to charge, correct?
Right, but there are some things in terms of shoe allowance, longevity. There are they get extra pay if they don't call in sick for half the year and the other half of the year. So there are.
But I mean in terms of health care.
Exactly. That's
right.
Yep.
Meal taxes. Does that mean you're actually filing a tax return?
I'm not filing a return, but any of the a la carte items or adult meals would be taxed.
So these are sales taxes?
Correct. Meal sales tax.
Sales taxes.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any limitations on how high your fund balance can be?
Technically, I'm supposed to spend 3 months of the total of the expenses. So, which is even at 200 or 300,000, we're still.
Got it.
We're under.
So if you were started to creep over 400,000, you might have a problem. Do you have any idea of the fixed equipment, the value of the total fixed equipment? Do you have?
Yeah, I do have a report. I can bring that or share it with you later this week. So what I do is I have a budget for all the equipment. I've listed all the equipment out at each school. What
I'm getting at is, if you took that total and made an estimate of its useful life, and then calculated an annual depreciation, do you have any idea what that number would be, ballpark?
It's not over 50,000, I don't think.
It's not over 50,000 a year for depreciation.
No, most of the equipment, with the exemption of the few pieces I've bought over the past few years, are way beyond 10 years. So we use a 10-year depreciation value on the equipment, and most all of it is beyond
So
that.
it's fully depreciated.
Correct.
But that means it could go at any time.
Exactly. Well, that's why I spend a little money on having it serviced each year, and they do an evaluation of each piece that they service, the high-end stuff, the ovens, the refrigeration, and then try to give me an assessment of what they think the life of the equipment would be.
I guess you're, in many respects, successfully, I might add, running a small business. And I would love to see, even though it's not a cash item, I would love to see a depreciation line item, because that would give me an even greater comfort that this $314,000 that you're projecting as a surplus for this small business is real, because it really does look nice and healthy. And that if you had the depreciation in there, it would be that much more accurate reflection on what it looks like as a business. But it's a great report, and I really appreciate it.
And I think one of the things we've been working on is, now we've got a good baseline report of all the equipment, is starting to plan to replace pieces before they break, because, you know, we're trying to time it because we want to get the maximum useful life out of them, but at the same time we don't want to wait for stuff to, you know, stop working in the middle of service. So trying to have a planned replacement of equipment, and that's one of the things we're working towards.
Once you set it up, I don't think it would be a lot of work. It would just be the initial setup.
And we've got a lot of that. We've got, Rob's done a lot of work in getting that baseline sorted, so I think we're in a good place to get started.
It's almost as much fun as budgeting, Rob.
I know.
Not my forte.
Well, it seems like your forte,
Yeah.
because you do a very good job. It's
Well,
very
thanks.
clear.
I really rely on working with the staff in all the schools. I mean, being in the front line and helping create the menu, and working with them and the students to try to find out what meals they like, what they don't like. That's the whole, you know, point of what I'm doing, is working with them to feed students and children, you know. So that's, this is great, and I'm glad that we're doing well. That's how I would like to run it, obviously. But, you know, I really enjoy the part of working with the staff and trying to feed the students in the district.
I know Mr. Sweat has another question.
Sorry. You've actually I guess you just addressed it. You have a committee with students on it?
So we're starting to tap into that. I have a very enthusiastic, well-rounded student, Indiana Troop.
That's an understatement, enthusiastic.
I love that kid. He's great because he offers a lot of good insight. He's got a group of his followers that are also working to help us. The advisory committee at the high school, we've just been meeting with them on some things. I think they were here last time at the school committee meeting talking about some upgrades they'd like to see, which I have in the works for we need a new POS system for the district. The one that we have now is just old, and you know, I'd like to get some menu boards in the high school and get that all straight. You know, having it more, right now it's on a server, the POS system, and they have this cloud base on Mosaic, which is, the IT department is going to love it. Chris Tahan will be excited because I won't need him. So I'll be able to run this through the cloud, and it'll be real time, especially for my school bucks. We have a little lag with that right now, trying to get it dated as much as possible for our students who put money on their accounts to have that available. So I'm looking to do that the end of this year. I couldn't change it over mid-year. It'd be too much for the staff to try to do that and change a new system. So I'll be working hard to look at the different systems out there and make the best choice, like I usually do with any purchase that I make. I want to make sure that I'm getting the best value for what we're buying.
Just one thing before we wrap up, I'll just plug the website. So Rob's done a lot of work in developing the food service website. So obviously all the menus are there, but a lot of nutritional information about every item that's on the menu is there. So if parents need to plan ahead for allergies or anything like that, it's all on the website, and that's updated every month as menus are updated.
And there's a web app you can get for it too. You can see the menus each day for the week, for the month on an app. So
Sounds great. Thank you for all your work.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now turn it over to Superintendent.
Thank you. I would ask the committee to accept the following gift. $1,400 from the Wareham, New Bedford Lodge of Elks to sponsor transportation and the admission to global field trips for the Wareham Public School Global Ambassadors.
Do I have a motion to accept the gift?
So moved.
Second?
Quick question.
Oh.
Does that relate to the students that were just here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
5-0-0.
Thank you. All right, next, approval of bills. Bill warrant on February 1st in the amount of $3,034.79. Bill warrant on February 1st in the amount of $1,120,475.46. Bill warrant on February 8th in the amount of $3,034.79. The bill warrant on February 8th in the amount of $223,243.20. Bill warrant on February 15th in the amount of $34.79, and bill warrant on February 15th in the amount of $129,837.76. I would ask approval.
Do I have a motion to approve bill and warrant articles?
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
Thank you. Payroll ending the week of January 20th in the amount of $892,739.90. Payroll ending in the week of January 27th in the amount of $144,445.31. And payroll ending February 3rd in the amount of $845,787.48. I would ask approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the payroll and warrants for January 20th, January 27th, and February 3rd?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0-0.
Thank you. This year, our district will use, it's called the Screening Brief Intervention and Referral to Treatment. This protocol will be used for students in grades 9 and in grade 7. A letter has gone out to parents in grade 9 as well as students in the Wareham Cooperative School. Starting on February 12th, the protocol will facilitate a one-on-one conversation. This will occur between the nurse or our social worker with each student in the certain grade level, and it will be an effort to prevent the start of using harmful substances such as alcohol and marijuana. You were given a letter that was sent home, and I am just bringing this to your attention. This is an unfunded mandate, I would add, from the state. Yes. Again, I would like to share with you that the Wareham Public Schools will have district-wide kindergarten registration on March 7th. It's a Wednesday from 9 to 11:30 and from 12:30 to 2. And March 8th, which is a Thursday, the times are 9 to 11:30, 12:30 to 2, and 4 to 7. If you have any questions, please call Deaconess, and they'll be more than happy to answer the questions. On Thursday, February 8th, at the high school, there will be an AP night beginning at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock to 6:30. At 6:30 to 7, it will be dual enrollment night, and at 7 to 7:30, it will be IB night. I would certainly urge parents, guardians to come out and learn more about your students' options at the high school. Kudos to the Wareham girls basketball team as they received the state honor for fundraising efforts on Friday night, next Friday is the 14th, yes? No.
Wednesday. The
Wednesday, February 14th, the high school Interscholastic Athletic Association will present the Educational Athletic Achievement Award to our girls' high school team. The tip-off begins at 6 p.m. This is a wonderful award given to our girls' basketball team for their efforts in raising $12,366 to help a family in need. So please, I extend our congratulations and urge you to come and support our girls. Our middle school, 2 students, Chloe Hogan and Olivia Powers, they raised and delivered 507 new pairs of socks that they donated as a community service project. So congratulations to the girls. We're very proud of your efforts, and we certainly commend you. And finally, last evening, the town administrator presented a budget to the Board of Selectmen, which placed our budget, FY19, in dire straits. After a public hearing on December 6th, the school committee voted on December 13th, and there was a budget submitted to the town administrator, which was $29,413,679. This represented a 3.6% increase from this year's budget. During the past several years, the school district has made significant reductions in staffing, programming, as well as closing buildings. Also, transportation to and from school has been reduced. Due to the impending anticipated shortfall, several significant reductions will be necessary for the school's FY19 budget. In recent weeks, I've been working with Mr. McMillan, the superintendent's budget subcommittee, which is composed of 2 school committee members, as well as our administrators. We will be presenting potential reductions to the community for the FY19 budget at the next school committee meeting on February 28th. I urge parents and community members to attend this open hearing, as changes in the budget will seriously impact how our district will be operating. These potential changes are monumental. Please come to the meeting, hear the proposed changes, as this will change how education is offered in Wareham. That completes my reports.
I would just like to echo what the superintendent just said. We were already in dire straits. Last night, a huge reduction, another huge reduction was made in the budget that we submitted. We were already having problems, and therefore there will be grave consequences and big decisions to be made, so that affect all of us. So please be aware and attend the February 28th meeting and hear about what's going on and help make decisions. Thank you. Do you have anything? Would anyone else like to say anything on the topic?
Joyce, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, go ahead.
The town administrator has a very difficult job. But the truth of the matter is that the town charter, says that the number used in the town budget until we get to town meeting is the number that the school committee provides. So that the number that was in the budget presented to the Board of Selectmen last night does not reflect what the school committee requested. It simply is a number that balances the budget based upon what the town administrator feels he needs for everything but the schools. The school committee respects the difficulty that the town administrator has. Let me restate that. I'm not speaking for the entire school committee. I respect the difficulty that the town administrator has in putting together a budget. But the truth is that that number, which was $93,000 more than last year's number, or I should say this year's number, does not reflect what the school committee, what I believe is needed in order to properly educate the students of Wareham. This budget hearing, I don't think anybody in this room or anybody watching can anticipate the kind of changes we're going to be forced to make in order to come close, and I repeat, come close to what the town administrator suggested we could have based on the budget he presented to the Board of Selectmen. Will be very interested to hear what citizens have to say after they hear these changes. The school committee cares greatly about what people think about how we operate and how we propose to operate the schools. The simple fact is there's not enough money, and therefore the changes that we're proposing are not something we want to do, but rather some things that we feel we probably have to do. I look forward to seeing as many people as possible on the 28th.
So all I'd like to say is that I agree with Jeff. I do respect the difficult job that the town administrator has. But I think what was presented last night by the Board of Selectmen, I think it was irresponsible of them to present it in that way without the school, anyone from the school present. I think what I envision is that it's working together. Obviously, there's going to be a budget shortfall in Wareham, but I think that we all have to work together. It's not us against them. It's all of us working towards the same goal. So I look forward to that. And like Jeff said, I encourage everyone to come on the 28th and be part of that discussion. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the vote to renew the superintendent's contract. People should be aware that this has been confidentially negotiated and was further discussed this evening in executive session. And tonight, the action is entirely to vote on the superintendent's contract. Unless there is any discussion, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the new contract with the superintendent, but I do want an opportunity to make some comments.
And I would also, and I second it.
Second it, and we could go with the comments. Who would like to speak first?
So I just want everyone to know that I've taken into consideration state data, community concerns, my own observations, and I want to add that I personally do not know of any other administrator in the district who has been offered an extended contract. So I don't think it is should be any different in this case.
For those of you who listened to some discussion we had, feels like a while ago, maybe a couple of meetings ago on this subject, you may realize that there are differences of opinions. Despite the number of occasions where we unanimously approve things like payrolls and warrants, et cetera, this is a deliberative body. So the first thing I want to do is thank all of my colleagues for the process by which we came to the document that I intend to vote for approval. I can personally say it's not a perfect document from my perspective, but I think anybody who searches for perfection is not only dreaming but also arrogant. I think you have to compromise when you're a deliberative body, especially a body that's filled with people who care about the parents and the children of Wareham, and when you have insufficient resources. And finally, I think it should be understood that if there was anything that anybody, including the state of Massachusetts, had ever said to me, and I talk to a lot of people because I'm also on the state association, about how to improve the education in Wareham that we're not doing, then we should be doing it. But the fact of the matter is that education is an extraordinarily difficult thing to accomplish, and I think Dr. Shaverhood and this committee and the staff are doing everything possible to benefit the children of Wareham so that they can start off with the maximum opportunity for success. And I would also add that that I am very fortunate that I get to talk to not only current students, but former students, and they're all universally very proud of the education that they have received in Wareham. So if you want to get a great education and you apply yourself, you can certainly get it in Wareham. So I repeat, it was a deliberative process. The results were a compromise, but I intend to vote for that compromise.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes, I would just like to say it was a deliberation, and I appreciate that. And I do believe that we've come to an agreement that is in the best interest of everyone involved. And I too, like Mary said, I do take into consideration the community concerns and comments that have been made to me. But I truly believe that this agreement is in the best interest of all of us.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. I'd like to say that I support this contract also, and that I think because there are such hard times coming, and whether that was the reason or not, I highly respect our superintendent and know that she's the best leader for us right now, and probably will continue to be, and that's why I'm voting for this. So, at this time, I'd like to take a vote unless there's any more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain? 4-1-0. Yeah, I thought you were going to, in the.
I thought that was your problem.
No, I thought when you made the motion, you were going to explain it. I mean, make the motion to include what it was. So.
It's a good.
It's a one-year extension, a rolling one-year extension, and I'll have Mr. Sweat, if there's anything else to add.
It's a one-year extension of the current contract. Our current contract ends July 31st of next year. By rolling, our chair means that if a majority of the school committee, after an evaluation process, believes that the superintendent is doing a good job, then an additional year is added. If a majority of the school committee does not believe that the superintendent is doing a good job, a proficient job to be specific, then there is no extension to the contract, and the contract will gradually cease to be operative, unless, of course, the confidence of the school committee is regained. So in my mind, there is still lots of accountability, but there also is stability. And if we expect our superintendent to lead, she has to be able to say that she has the confidence of the school committee. And I believe by this vote, you can see that right now, the superintendent absolutely has the confidence of the school committee to lead this district through very difficult times, and I hope we can retain that confidence. But each year following the evaluation process, there will be a statement of whether there remains confident. And I share my chair's view that I hope that confidence continues.
Okay, is there any other business?
I'd just like to say, Dr. Shaverhood shared with us the event going on tomorrow night at the high school, about IB and AP. And I think that it's just important to note that there are so many opportunities for families and students to come out and get information from the school, from the teachers, from the students. And I don't think that we take enough advantage of those opportunities. I've been at a really great event at the middle school. They're just not well attended. So I just encourage people, there's a lot of work that goes into these events, and there's a lot of really great, important information to get at these events. And so I just really encourage people to come out and attend and take advantage of what's being offered. I really feel like people are not taking advantage of what's being offered to them as far as information and opportunities. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good evening.